Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric and Tour de Fleece 2023. I have started plying because yesterday I finished spinning the singles for my sweater spin. I told my husband that I had emptied a bucket. As I have mentioned in the past, I store my fleece in 5-gallon buckets. And I told him I'd emptied a bucket, but that he probably shouldn't confiscate it too much or too permanently because, you know, in the fall we might have to go and purchase some more fleece. Isn't that the way it goes? Empty some stash only to then refill the stash with something else. But we have now reached really close to the end of this Tour de Fleece month of July. I looked through my last remaining topics and discovered that the two of the last three are really talking about the same thing. And had I grabbed them at different times during the month, they would have been wonderful to have as separate topics. But where they are both now we are now at this point, it's better probably for me to combine these two topics. And of course, the topics are the big topic of animal fibers with the second one, dual coated sheep, or a better way of describing it, multi-coated fleece. Because it's not just sheep that have multiple coats of protective hair. So that is our topic. I am spinning. I have more of my sweater spin. This is the my Saturday spin. It's one of the two bobbins. The other bobbin, I have a few more row-logs of the blue. I have a bag of white that I thought maybe I'd ply with the blue, but I think I'll probably do it with something else. Over here, I have my brown. I have two of those, the bonus, just in case I needed something to spin, which I might. I also have some blue dyed alpaca that I was going to end up putting into this sweater spin, but chose to leave it out. I don't know what I'll end up doing, but I have a couple more days. And so who knows what I will be doing in front of the camera tomorrow. But today, I thought I'd better start plying on all of these bobbins that I have, because I have these two here. The only bit of that fleece I have left unspun is this little bowl here. When I was dyeing my rainbow braid, I put it in a circle in a glass pie pan. And I put this fiber in the center of it to act as a buffer to keep the dyes from blending into each other. So I'm not sure what I'll do with that. We could have a really interesting spin on Sunday, maybe tomorrow, who knows? I don't know, but I'd better get to going on this plying because it's going to take me a little while. All right, so the topic of today is animal fibers, and also the topic of the multi-coated animals that we have out there. So first of all, animal fibers, we could call them hair, wool, fur. All are basically just simple categories that we put our animal fibers into based upon often their most prominent feature. Hello. If you're going to come here and try to help me ply, I think you should say hi to the camera. Yeah, you've been picking on your sister a bunch today, playing. So how come you're not sleeping, huh? He likes to curl up with me, but he is not necessarily, neither of the two young ones are snuggly cats. They are definitely cats. But he likes to sleep with me. He definitely likes to come and sleep with me. Are you going to go now? Okay. one of the great ways to try to get a cat to leave you alone when you don't want to be bothered is pick them up. Then they're like, no, no, we're a cat. We decide. So as I was saying, animals, well, there was a cat with his cat hair. So the difference between wool, in looking to try to find a definition of each of these different characteristics, what I found is that you can end up going down a serious rabbit hole of overlapping terminology. Because what you can call wool could also be sometimes referred to, there could be hair, and hair can be fur, and fur can be wool, and it's a terminology. It's a little bit of a terminology nightmare. There's not a clear definition between each one. But as I said, the characteristics tend to, fiber gets put into a category based upon their prominent characteristic. So wool tends to be, wool tends to refer to fluffy undercoat, a downy, soft undercoat. But wool can also, in a single coated animal, be its only coat. So it's not an undercoat. The presence of crimp can make a big distinction as to whether it is hair or wool. But then again, some hair has crimp. One of my older cats, he is a long-haired cat, and he has many different breeds of cat in him. And he has a lot of guard hair, more so than his sister. His sister is, her hair is all very equally fine and soft. She will develop an undercoat when it's cold, but her hair is just spinnable soft. It reminds me a great deal of Angora bunny. But his Ting's coat, my big black male cat, he has a lot of guard hair, and it's slick and it's smooth and it protects, but he will get an undercoat that is downy soft. He also has a lot of crimp on his backside, not his back. Over where his tail is, he has a ton of extra thickness of hair, and it's crimpy and it's soft. And I believe the nature of it is it's a defense. It comes from breeds of cats that develop. I think that cat that I was holding in my lap a few minutes ago is going to be the culprit of the day. He is doing things that he probably shouldn't be doing behind the scenes. I think it is time to get out the arsenal of distraction. Yep. And he's going to go down, and he's going to take a vase with it, but it didn't hit the camera. That's what's important. Climbing the walls behind the camera. Okay, so I was talking about my big fuzzy cat, not this little skinny trouble over here. So some cats have, and some animals have developed a defense where they grow extra fur, extra hair on their hindquarters, on their bum region, so that when predators are chasing them and grab a hold, they grab a hold of a mouthful of hair. The hair breaks away, and the cat escapes. This Ting definitely has that characteristic. And his sister does as well as they had another sister who's passed away. She had a ton, trying to keep the mats down. She had so much hair on her hindquarters. And it definitely was, I can see how it is a defense that the animals develop. So animals develop their hair characteristics, their outer coating of not just for warmth, but it can be for protection. In the case of multi-coated animals, you'll find that it's the protection against the elements. The downy undercoat adds warmth when it's harsh, cold climates. It sheds, and they're left usually just with the outer guard hairs. Okay. Never gonna get. Sorry, I really should set up that second camera. But as soon as I set up a second camera to watch them, they would stop. You would see. So, wool, as I said, wool tends to be the fluffy undercoat. It is the easiest to spin due to crimp that makes the fibers grab and hold on to each other. Hairy fibers are spinnable, but they usually require greater twist. The herdwick that I showed you in one of the early videos was very hair-like. And then fur is not usually spinnable. It is because fur is the short hair-like fibers, but much shorter than, say, like guard hairs, human hair, etc. And so those are the different categories of the animal fibers. And of course, as I've mentioned with my cat Ting, one animal can have a variation, can have multiple types of fibers on their body. And that's what I want to talk about as far as the multi-coated animals. And while on my card I have multi-coated, dual-coated sheep, and I looked that up, so I want to share this book. So this book here, The Spinner's Book of Fleece by Beth Smith. Show that again. In the back section, it gives a list of some of the multi-coated breeds of sheep. And they have Icelandic, Carcarol, Navajo Churro, Scottish Blackface, and Shetland and Romanoff. And I was looking at this, I thought, wow, okay, I have Icelandic out in my stash, I have Carcarol, I have Navajo Churro. The Scottish Blackface is what I brought upstairs today. I have a small bag of that. I have spun Shetland, but I'm pretty sure the Shetland that I spun did not have a dual coat. If it did, I didn't notice it, so it must not have been any different, a lot of difference. And I have not heard of Romanoff before now. It says its origin is near Moscow. Go figure. But it has a little information about looking at the different breeds, spinning the undercoat all by itself, which is oftentimes preferable, spinning the outer coat alone. But then it has a section here that says spinning the two coats together. If you decide to spin the under and outer coats together, the preferred method is woolen for both prepping and spinning. Okay? Because you have the varying lengths. That's one of the big things is that dual-coated animals, multi-coated animals, the staple length of the undercoat and the outer coat will usually be very different. It does say here that you'll get more waste if you're trying to use combs versus flit carders. You know, you want it to be blended together. You want to then spin it from a roll log, and it gives a little bit more tips. And it says working with more than two coats. You can't always separate the three coats where the fleece has more than two types of fiber. Often a third type of fiber, hemp. Generally short, wire-like fibers, with little bends in them. Yep, the herdwick that I had hemp. So it talks about some of that. Now, what I want to say is I have these fibers in my stash. However, I have not really spent a good amount of time researching or delving into spinning them when they're combined. I understand how to spin them, and I've done a little bit of spinning separate undercoat versus the hair, specifically with the camel that I'm about to show you. but I have not actually delved into the spinning of them together. There is a purpose for them. I suspect one of the things that holds me back is I would like to actually spin the churro and the Icelandic in a more traditional combined spin, but I'd like to use them in a project more traditional. And that probably means weaving will come out, or my daughter will be needed in short. But I wanted to show you, so I brought up, this is the Scottish blackface, and I had a little pile of, oh, there they are. I grouped them together. Here we go. So, fluffy, hair-like. It shows you the two different types of fiber. Fluffy, hair-like. But the hair-like, unlike when we talk about the Kemp, the hair-like are nice long strands, and they look awfully lot like my stripe of hair here. Fluffy and hair-like. So there is our two fibers. But to get a better understanding of how multi-coated can be, let's look at camel. Hair and cloud. I mean, this is where you really get the terminology cloud to come in. Short, soft, woolen fibers. You definitely want to be spinning this woolen. You can spin this by itself. I have. I think I still have samples somewhere in my bin from a sample study I've done before. But this, and I've joked about this every time I pull this out, this is the same color as my mom's 1970s hair. It looks like her hair. In the early 70s, she started dyeing her hair to cover the grays. And that is the color and texture of the hair, her hair in the 1970s. Soft, downy undercoat, a hair coat. These have been separated with combs. This is a combed top. And this is the fluff that's left over after having combed out the hair. Now, I did also want to share those two fibers I have purchased from my go-to, the Woolery. But this fiber, this is also camel. And this, my daughter brought back from Mongolia with her. She was in a market one day. They had a bag of the fiber. She realized that was definitely something that she needed to purchase and bring back for her. So those are the fibers that I have brought. So I think, I did want to mention about the camel. I'll pull some of this out. You'll hear mention of things like Kiviot. And Kiviot is not always the easiest to source. It is a multi-coated animal. It is the muskox. It is not something that is necessarily domesticated, but people are definitely spinning its fiber. It's usually more of a collection based from when they shed. Now, Kiviot, and I have some, I did not bring it because I try not to manhandle that too much. If you do not have the availability of Kiviot, and it is not an easy fiber to source, and it is a kind of a cost prohibitive fiber, but you want to try to spin something like it, I recommend you get yourself some camel, because where the camels have been in domesticated herds, you might have an easier chance getting that fiber, and then you can get that undercoat. Now, I did not bring any to this video. It looks a lot like that, but it's darker brown. My bison. The American buffalo, the bison. It is also a multi-coated animal. The person who gave me the bison, he brushed, it was his and I say this very liberally, it was his pet. Bison are not domesticated. Yes, we do raise them now in the United States in herds, but they are not necessarily a domesticated breed. But he had one that was his pet. And he brushed its coat. He said that, now this is going from his research, I have not independently researched this, but he said that the bison actually had five coats. 5 different coats of hair. So we've talked about the undercoat, we have the guard hairs, we have Kemp, but in he said that there are very distinct layers of a coat. And if you think about how big and shaggy they are and the climate that they deal with, I can understand the need for all the protection. But the undercoat, when he brushed it off every spring, when the bison would start to shed and he'd brush it off, he would use a curry comb, like a horse brush, and he'd brush that fiber off. And so what was happening is he was actually, between using the brush and the comb, he was actually de-hairing the underfiber and getting the underfiber. And he was really kind, and he gave me a couple buckets that still have a lot of the hair in it, a bucket that is almost all entirely undercoat that I only have to pick out a few of the guard hairs in order to have a soft, lovely spin. It looks much like the camel, short, fluffy undercoat. The difference is the bison is much more dark chocolate brown and wonderful warmth. And I know it is a fiber that is being spun and being turned into socks and such like that as well, the bison. So if Kiviat is really outside of your availability, look for camel, look in your area, see what else is there. And with that being said, there's always the undercoat of your cat or the undercoat of your dog or the undercoat of your neighbor's dog. Some of the larger, fluffier dog breeds will get a wonderful soft undercoat. So there are ways to get this fluffy, soft undercoat that is not the same as what you expect with sheep. Because the sheep's undercoat, the downy undercoat on sheep, it's still wool, and it still feels like a more crimpy wool, what we associate with the word wool. So there are ways for you to get a very cloud-like downy undercoat if you go outside of sheep breeds. You're going to find there's a number of animals that actually produce that lovely fiber. So I'm going to continue to ply along. I am going to do my best to get all of this plied soon, maybe before the next video, because I'm just simply doing a 2-ply. As you can see, I have it on a smaller whirl here. It is just, when it comes to this kind of plying, there is not much to see here, and I will wear myself out just trying to ply these bobbins. But I don't know, I may tomorrow play around with some of that other fiber behind me, see what I can come up with. Maybe that, yes, I still have like the alpaca in the house. I don't know. I may have to blend something up, have something different to spin. I will get bored just plying because okay, so I've been sitting here and plying all this time. The bobbins are still fairly full, and Yes, I have a few of them. So we'll see. We'll see what today brings, and then I'll decide for tomorrow. I do know what the final topic I have is. I may have to come up with some other topics. I don't know. I've reached the point, I think we've reached the point that if you are still spinning along with me or crafting along with me, you know, we have covered a lot of topics. I hope that they have helped and that there are things that maybe you would go back and watch again later. And in the upcoming year, in the upcoming 6 months and year, I'm hoping to do a study of some of the plant-based fibers. I would like to look at these multi-coated breeds more closely and spin something of those. So who knows if that will come in now that I know I was going through, you know, recognizing how many of them I actually have in my stash. I wonder if I've covered everything. Yeah. I've covered everything on the cards. I think I may finally be running out of things to say, but I think I'll go ahead and wrap this up today and finish just saying that I'm so glad that you have stuck with me to this point. I hope that this has been interesting. I will put the information for this book in the description as usual, and if you're interested in it. I think when it comes to this topic of multi-coated animals, animal fibers and multi-coated animals, I think the thing I'd like to end on is, I think too often when we say the word wool, we do immediately think of one type of fluffy little sheep running, you know, through a green field. Whereas there are so many different animals that have provided fiber for people throughout the time. So many animals that we can share their fibers with them. In the case of my cats, grooming them provides me fiber. So this is a relationship that man has had with their animals for millennia. And it is one that I think we should embrace. If you take a little bit of time, you can figure out how to best use the fiber you have access to. You don't necessarily have to look outside of your own backyard. Or maybe it is your backyard that you're looking for the fiber in. We can source locally, we can source internationally, we can explore the wonderful relationship that we've had with these animals and the wonderful relationship we hope to continue to have with these animals in the future. So that is my vlog for today, and until tomorrow, happy crafting, spinning, and whatever it is you're doing. Until then, bye-bye.